That's it from the side, ref.
Okay.
So, bro.
So that's the series done. Lions 2-1.
Yeah.
Some pride restored in Australia. Let's just start off with the game in itself before we talk about the bigger picture. What did you make of Saturday's game?
Mate, I've never seen a game like that. The torrential rain that was coming down. Watching Alex and the boys present on Sky Sports beforehand and literally almost doing a Mary Poppins to fly away. So really, really tough conditions. And then to be hauled off for a half hour, 45 minutes in between because of lightning within a 10K radius. I thought really tough to kind of get in sort of a game mindset with all of this going on around you.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't think that's an excuse. I think the Aussies played well. They were playing for pride. They played to the conditions better. And I think to a man, they looked like they wanted it more.
I think to a man, absolutely. 1-15, including the bench, they outplayed the Lions completely. And I think, to be honest, the scoreline flatters the Lions. They were completely outplayed.
Yeah.
And the moment the Aussies ran onto the field, mate, the moment I saw Dylan Peach, I knew the Wallabies were going to win. Like, you could just see his energy, his excitement, his intent, his urgency. And then he scored early in the game. He scored a fantastic try. I just knew, I had a gut feel that the boys are here to play. And, I think it's a great result for Australian rugby.
It's the thing, who pitches up on the day? Now, I'm frustrated for Australian rugby, but I'm quietly excited for them. I think they did themselves a massive disservice by not pitching up to the first game. If they'd pitched up to the first game and made it more competitive and gave themselves momentum, look, there's going to be so much contention and for years to come around that penalty that wasn't a penalty, that should have been a penalty in the eyes of the Aussies, right, in the second game. Because had the penalty decision gone their way, it would have been overturned. Australia win that game. They go in, it's 1-1, and Australia would now have a 2-1 win.
Hypothetically, yes. But if it was 1-1 going into the third test,
the Lions would have pitched up.
And I think they were still pretty much hungover from the celebrations a week before, and they probably had 1 foot already on the plane. I know they would have been disappointed with the loss, but it was a way more important test for the Aussies to win. There was more in it for them. The Lions already had the series wrapped up, so there was less in it for them to put their bodies on the line.
More for them to be reminiscent of in the future had they won 3-0 to come and... Do you remember, like, apparently they're going to see each other again in 12 years in Sydney. They were all talking about having a return, whatever. When you see someone else that you've played alongside in a fixture sort of series as the Lions have just done, are they going to really care that it was 3-0 versus 2-1? No, they won the series. They enjoyed the time in Aussie. They lost 1 game on tour. They won every other game, and they wrapped up the series with a week to spare.
Yeah,
and so they got on the piss. They enjoyed the last week. They were surfing or doing whatever. Boys getting amongst it.
Yeah,
they didn't have to pitch up. Now it would have been nice for them, but I think when you arrive at the stadium, you've already won. You're 2-0 up. This is a dead rubber, and it's absolutely pissing it down.
Yeah,
you're just like, why do I have to go out there and throw myself at everything?
Yeah, no, I don't know if it. You speak to any Lions player and to Farrell, they'll disagree with that. I agree with you, but I don't think they'll admit to that. They would have said no, we gave it 100% and we wanted to go 3-0, totally. But I'm so satisfied with this result because I think it's just what Australian rugby needed. They would have been massively disappointed after the second test. There's still people saying it could have gone either way with that penalty. I'm one of them. I don't think it was clear cut. I get why they blew it in the Lions' favour. It's fine. We move on. If they overturned it, I could have seen why they would have overturned it.
It's one of those 50-50.
One of those 50-50 calls. It could have gone either way. It just didn't go Australia's way, and they can be aggrieved. But apart from that, they didn't lose the second test. They lost the second test the 5 minutes before halftime. The fact that they didn't pitch up in the first one.
And the fact that Valentini went off at halftime.
Valentini went off at halftime. He also didn't play on the weekend. Interestingly enough, I think Will Skelton was Australia's secret weapon. I saw an interesting stat. Out of the minutes that he played, I think he only played 43 minutes or something like that during the The whole
second?
series.
Oh, okay.
No, the whole series. I can't remember how many minutes, but they outscored the Lions with Will Skelton on the field, 48-34. That's the score in favour to Australia in all the tests while Will Skelton was on the field. So
He was massive.
If he just
No
had
pun
a
intended.
little bit more in his engine to keep him on the field, I think, especially in the second test, I think it could have turned the Aussies' way. But I agree with you. I know I sound like a stuck record, but if they had one more warm-up game after Fiji, just somewhere between the Fiji game and the first test against have a midweek game on a
So they
Wednesday
can autocorrect.
against Samoa or Tonga or someone that's really physical. Tell them, come and give us all the physicality
Have a
you
go.
can and let us play against that. Just have another go, just to build a bit of confidence and continuity. It could have been a different series.
It could have been a different series. A lot of people after the second test go, and we were part of that chorus, saying, is it worth the Lions travelling to Australia? They've won, what is it, 60 years? If they travel every 12 years, and they've won one in 5, they've won once in 60 years. And if my maths is off, forgive me. But they're 5-1, and many people are saying, well, France are playing better rugby now. Argentina are playing better rugby. Maybe it warrants for the next Australian tour to be diverted. And then I see a lot of people this week saying the Australian rugby public can be very grateful to the Lions for not pitching up as much as they did in the final, because it then warrants them now coming back in the future. It almost solidifies the case to be made that Australian rugby is still strong enough to warrant their return.
Oh, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think Saturday's result and how they played in the second test, it squashed all sort of discussions about the Lions touring anywhere else. They need to go to Australia, they go to New Zealand, they go to South Africa. That's it. That's the status quo, and we're not going to move away from that. And long may it continue, because at some point the Aussies will be back on top again. They're too strong, they're too proud.
Rugby and life is cyclical, right?
Cyclical.
They'll come back. And I think for the rugby public in Australia, they've had some hard pills to swallow of late. But like we said, the boys stood up. They played with a bit of heart and a bit of pride. I'm just so bummed that they didn't do it in the first test, because it would have made this last test a real challenge. Where, again, it's not an excuse, but you can see the Lions boys, as you say, a bit of a hangover. They didn't pitch up as much, and maybe they didn't need to.
I had a look at one of our old videos from last year when we, towards the end of the year, just after Australia toured the Northern Hemisphere, we spoke about the Lions. I know I changed my mind since then, but back then I called it 2-1 series victory for the Lions. I always felt like Australia had something in them. After the first test, I thought it was going to be a 3-0 whitewash. So great for the Aussies to be able to turn it around. At the end of the day, looking back at that 3-test series, it was a great series.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Because none of the rugby was runaway victories. A lot of people out there saying the Lions were overhyped. They weren't as good as everyone made them out to be. I don't know. I think a couple of selections in the third test blew up in Farrell's face, his son being one of them, Bundy Aki being another one. Andrew Porter struggling in the scrums. I think he was very loyal to players where he should have picked Genge.
Genji deserved it.
They missed Tuipulotu in the midfield.
And I think Duan as well was a selection that maybe could have made
very hard done by,
especially when at one point you've got Hugh Jones standing on the wing.
But also when your teammate in Scotland who plays fullback is being picked in your position.
Yeah, exactly. So, and don't get me wrong, I think Kinghorn played well. He's a great player. But if you're picked as a wing and you play in the same team, you're like, what am I doing here? Yeah. And also he was their top try scorer in the midweek games and etc. So I think Duan can feel aggrieved. But overall, a good tour. I'm looking forward to the Boxers versus the Wallabies now.
That's a great segue, Matt, because where to for the Aussies from here?
I think they need to. I don't want them to, because I'm a Bok fan, but I think they need to latch onto, sink all teeth into this kind of belief system that they've created in the last two tests, to take the momentum that they should have brought with them from the autumn series into that first test, take the momentum that they built over these last 2 tests into those challenges against the Box and into the Rugby Championship. Because if they can take the momentum, they've got to travel, right? And that's always difficult. But if they can take that kind of mentality and that belief and the structures and the systems that they've now used most recently against the Lions to good effect, I think we'll see a great challenge for the Box.
I at least, that's the key thing, at least if it's more competitive. Obviously, we want the Box to win and we back them 100%. But last year, we sent a very, very young, inexperienced Box team to Australia. We beat them handsomely in both tests. It wasn't really a contest. I'm just waiting, I just want those 2 tests to really be competitive, at least.
I think they will be.
I think that Wallabies will be a lot more battle-hardened than we are because they had a tougher lead-up into the Rugby Championship, which will be better for them. I saw Rassie cut the off time short, and he said to the boys, no more holiday, get back into camp, because the race period and the fact that we only, and I'm taking nothing away from Italy and Georgia, they're not the Lions, right? And we had different level of opposition. So Rassie, I think, noticed that, and he's like, no, we need to put in some work to beat these guys. They're not the team that they were in 2024. And we're going to have to pitch.
And the Bokke are such a scalp. They're such a trophy name to beat. If they beat us in any one of these tests, if anyone beats us, then they're going to be singing that on that for like the rest of the year and into the next and into the next World Cup. So Rassie, if he wants to, like as you say, they're more battle hardened. I'm chuffed that he's recognised that and gone, we actually need to pull up our socks in order to beat these guys. They're not going to be a pushover. Maybe if you'd watched only the first test, you'd think these guys are not going to be much of an opposition for us. And not disrespecting the Wallabies, they've come back in the last 2 tests to show that they're a force to be reckoned with. So I hope Rassie's recognising this, as I'm sure he is. I hope the boys who are going to be picked as part of the team, both on bench and on starting, recognise that those boys are coming to play and they're coming to take a scalp, and then they're going to need to do everything that they can to put in a winning performance.
Yeah, absolutely. So well done to the Lions. They did win 2-1. That's it. The Lions tour done. We'll wait for another 4 years to see them tour New Zealand in 2029, which should be a fantastic tour. But for now, Matt, our focus turns towards the Rugby Championship.
The champs.
We've got a new show coming up in the next couple of weeks, which we're going to feature some great moments and memories from the Rugby Championship.
Really good content.
So look out for that. But for now, Matt, that's the Lions done and dusted. And we'll chat again next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.